All right, everyone, many thanks to you for joining us on Aneke TV today. My name is Chris Aniwobo. Yes, of course, today we have a guest who has joined us to talk to us about happenings in society, especially with societal development, leadership, and his Reverend Father Benjamin Achi, who is a public affairs analyst. Padre, you're welcome to Aneke TV.
Thank you so much, Chris.
It's a pleasure having you.
Thank you.
All right. Yes, sit back as the program takes off. Padre, let's start with you on this note.
Yeah.
The society. We live in our society today. I don't know, some persons will want to refer to the society of old as the good old days.
Yeah.
But for the Gen Zs of this generation at the moment, they don't know about those good old days.
Yeah.
But looking at it from where we started as a people, where we are now, would you say the society is moving along the direction it should move? Are you comfortable where we are as a people now?
Well, thank you so much, Chris, for having me once again. Well, your question is, am I comfortable, where we are now? I think I can give the answer in the negative without any fear of contradiction. I am not so comfortable where we are now, and I don't think any very honest and objective person will say, well, I am comfortable the way things are now. Well, even the minute percentage of the population that seem to be well off in spite of the circumstances, I think if they are even honest with themselves, they will know that, well, this is not where we should be. Yes. You are talking about the new generation, the Gen Z people,
the Gen Zs,
who may not actually, who may not have any idea of how things were in the past. But I think anybody who has some knowledge of history or who listens to older people must have heard some beautiful stories that will even sound too good to be true. I mean, well, I belong to the millennials. I'm not a Gen Z. Yes, but I know the stories that my father tells me about the way things were during their own time. And honestly, most of the stories I hear him tell me sound too good to be true. So, I mean, I can't count how many times I've asked him, do you mean there was a time that things were the way you are describing them to me? And I said, yes, why not? Yes, things were that way. It's terrible. It's a tragedy how things have gone south so quickly. So he keeps saying that. So I don't think we are actually where we should be, and it makes the heart bleed. It gives a deep cut to the heart when we get to realize that, look, things could have been better, but where we are today are actually man-made. It's not like it's not just circumstantial. They didn't just come naturally. If we human beings had done the right things we should do, or are doing the right things we should do, then we will not be where we are today. So honestly, it cuts the heart to pieces. It makes the heart bleed to know that, look, things could have been better, especially when we look at ourselves and I mean, a country, a society that has got a lion's share of God's blessings in terms of natural and human resources. Why should we be where we are today? So it's really unfortunate. It's a tragedy, no less than a tragedy, that where things are the way they are today because, well, human beings have refused to manage the situation better, manage their affairs the way it should.
Now, a lot of people will want to say colonialism should be held responsible for our problems. And the white man came, and instead of allowing us to run along our own pace, along the lines of development, but then they came, disrupted the process, brought in their own culture, brought in their own education, killing the native way of communal living people. I don't know if you want to align yourself with that school of thought that says the white man should be held responsible for our problems today. But for me, I look back to, when did the white man actually live? He left 1960. And this is 2025. Padre, I wouldn't know. Would you want to blame our problems on the coming of the white man?
Well, I think it's one of those very weird things. It sounds to me quite preposterous. Contrary to reason that one, more than 65 years after the end of colonialism, will still be making reference to the coming of the white man. Yes, their coming was disruptive on many counts, quite all right. But advancing that argument in the present time would be laughable because we are not the only country that experienced colonialism. I mean, history is replete with people who experienced even worse than the things we experienced, and look at where they are today. Look at India today. Look at other countries. Look at Singapore. Look at very many other places. Well, I'm going even very far. Look around, even in around African countries. You know, I mean, with the exception of Ethiopia, the rest came under the weight of colonialism at one time or the other. But see the Human Development Index. Look at the economy. Look at the way, I mean, people who took over from the colonial masters managed the affairs of their country. So many of these countries are today could hold their own among the Committee of Nations today because there are people who said, okay, we take our destiny in our hands. These people have come with their disruption and everything that came with it. But now, I mean, we have to apply ourselves diligently to turning things around for the better. That's what we get in so many nation states in Africa and the rest of the world. So why should our own story be different? And you see, like I said a moment ago, what makes our own situation a pathetic commentary is the fact that some of these nation states we are referring to are not even as blessed, half as blessed as we are.
We're natural resources.
When it comes to resources, both human and natural resources. So how were these people able to turn things around for themselves? You know, and a country so massively blessed, a country that got a lion's share of God's blessings, can't even hold their own together. I mean, I think it would be laughable for anybody to still make reference to colonialism as being
today. So let's keep colonialism.
Yes, yes.
Now, we had our own brothers, men who promised shine after the rain, who took over from where the colonial masters left off.
Yeah.
But then somewhere along the line, a group of young military boys from the barracks felt they were not leading well. They were not giving the right leadership, and they decided to take it by force.
Yeah.
And we had a military coup, which brought us to war, the Nigerian Civil War. And not till date, Padre, some people are saying Nigeria Civil War actually contributed in taking Nigeria backwards. But then I don't know. If we look at the case of Rwanda that experienced the war in Rwanda that in 1994, that even had been described as a genocide. I don't think Rwanda is still living along the path of the effects of the war. What is our problem? What can we lay hands to as to being the cause of our problem?
Well, thank you so much. I'm happy you made reference to Rwanda, which is just there. You know, our African neighbors, African brothers and sisters out there. You know, whose own problem is even much more recent than ours. Theirs was in 1994. Sectarian violence between the Hutus and Tutsis, and we know how terrible it is. Anybody that visits Rwanda today, you know, getting to that site, will remember, you know, those things. And it's just very good that they kept that as a monument, so that, I mean, children growing up will remember, at least will be told that, yes, a thing like this happened sometime. Yes, 1994 to 2005. Anybody that visits Rwanda of 2005 will not believe that that country experienced what we read, what we experienced, because it's just quite recent. So this one is not way back in history. It is something that was playing out before our very eyes. And within this short space of time, that country's, you know, fortune has been turned around completely by their own people. Paul Kagame took the reins of power and, I mean, knew the right things to do, pressed the right buttons, and have kept his eye on the ball since then. People say, oh, wow, it's crazy. How can one person be, you know, in office for a very long time? But it has been all win situation for the Rwandans. Yes, he has been in power since the year 2000. Somebody described him as a benevolent dictator. And I said, well, perhaps we may need that kind of benevolent dictator, to turn things around for us. Because I said, if that is all it takes to have a benevolent dictator who will take the reins of power and press the right buttons and people are happier for it, okay, why not? Somebody like me, Father Benjamin, wouldn't mind opting for a benevolent dictator that will hold the reins of power. But our problem, like you said, is just greed. People who see governance, public service as a self-serving enterprise. That's exactly what you see in our country. People who claim to love the country, but they are speaking with their tongue on their cheek, who speak from the two sides of their mouth. I mean, they're coming, but you just notice from the very first tape out that they don't mean the things they're saying. They're just there for their own selfish aggrandizements and nothing more than that. So that's exactly what we're experiencing. Just a case of some people, a group of people, buccaneers, who just seize power by hook or crook and then serve their own interest and the interest of their cronies. That's what we see. And that is why things are the way they are. We are a country of 200 million people.
That's right.
And 133 million out of the 200 million are in multidimensional poverty. And we know what that means. That represents 63% of the population. That's no good news, Chris. That's not good news. That's not the kind of story we should be telling in a country so massively blessed. So I think it's just a question of just a handful of people, less than 5% of the population, seizing the country, so to speak. It's like a state capture, like what we're experiencing presently. It's nothing less than a state capture, just grabbing the country and then running it the way they want. So that's the way it is.
We understand. Looking at the society now, there seems to be so much hunger, poverty. People are impoverished. Just the other time, we saw where young people came together to organize a protest against hunger. And even the government was not too comfortable with that. We saw the arrest and the rest of them. But then, what do we need to do moving forward as a people? The people have in different forms tried to say, we are tired, we want to speak out. This is not what we bargained for. The government seems not to be, comfortable with such a, development. What do we need to do? How can we get it better moving forward?
Well, Chris,
apologies, Padre. Some people have said the system we practice is equally faulty. The democracy we are running. You say you are even going to be in support of the emergence of a benevolent dictator. Yes, I said that. I don't know. See, we need to change the system. Maybe the kind of democracy we are practicing is not indigenous. Or what do we need to do as a people, Father?
Well, in all honesty, yes, I said it a moment ago that if what we're seeing presently in Rwanda is what will turn things around in Nigeria, I wouldn't mind endorsing that. But I did say, in all honesty, that nothing is actually wrong with democracy as a system of government, as a form of government. But you see, when we talk about democracy, people tend to look at what is happening in Nigeria as a democracy, but for crying out loud, you can't describe what we have in Nigeria as a democracy, as a matter of fact. Yes, it isn't in any way. It's just a question of people just organizing themselves, finding some hook or crook means, whatever means, to grab power and then bestride the entire place like a colossus and begin to run the country like their private estates. That's what you get. That's not what you get in democracy. In a democracy, people are accountable. That is why someone can face the camera like I'm doing now to say, look, the president of the United States is not doing things right. We hate his policies and he has to stop. And this person will say it very boldly without being afraid that maybe somebody may come.
But that's in the United States.
That's exactly what I mean. But that is, well, I wouldn't say their democracy is perfect, but that is a prototype of a constitutional democracy. Yes, that's what it is. That's what a democracy should be. Someone can go before the White House and shout on top of his or her voice and say, look, the man who occupies this place is not doing the right thing, and he has to be mindful of Americans and the interests of Americans. And this person will say it and walk home and will not be afraid that anybody will come rounding him or her up to come and explain or put you behind bars because you express yourself. Look at what happened not long ago. I mean, a young youth corps member that was suffering, I mean, just said the same thing that practically all Nigerians have been saying over and over again, and then they're asking for the head of the poor girl. That's what you get, even though, well, thank God for the social media, thank God for the channels from where people can actually express themselves.
Yeah,
exactly.
right.
I think the outcry is part of the reason why, well, they decided to step down on maybe certain drastic actions they could have taken against her. But you could notice already that she was already being threatened, being warned, mean you're doing the wrong thing, you are going to the extreme, why would you insult it? Interestingly, the presidency hadn't even said anything by the time this lady was receiving threats. It was the authorities in the
National Youth Service.
Yes, at the National Youth Service. We were also expressing distress, threatening her for things that they themselves may even have said a million times. The only difference that they may have said theirs, putting their mouth under the table like hypocrites and sycophants will do. But the young girl, I mean, it was getting under her skin and she couldn't stomach it anymore and had to, well, use the only weapon she has, which is just a camera before her with her telephone, and to say, look, I am dying. There is no need painting words. There is no need. It's better I call a spade by its name. I am in a terrible situation, and I'm sure I am not alone. This is what Nigerians are experiencing, and it has to stop. This president is not doing the right thing. He might be a good man, but he's a terrible president. You know, these are two different things.
That's right.
People were saying he insulted the president, but for crying out loud, that wasn't an insult. Honestly, why wasn't an insult? Okay, somebody can say I'm a terrible lecturer. I may be a very good priest, but I'm a terrible lecturer. I'm not delivering my lectures very well in the university where I teach.
Right.
So, I mean, these are two separate things. You are not doing this work you signed for very well. You may be a good person, yes. We are not contesting that. Yes, even though that's a story for another day. We don't talk about the personality, but he's talking about the office you're occupying, and he's saying you are not discharging your duties creditably. That's the very clear interpretation of what the young lady said. But she was being gagged. Something you will not get in a constitutional democracy. That's why I still contest what we have, whether it is actually democracy, because I'm not very convinced of that. I don't think I can defend that as a democracy.
Okay, now, records has it that we borrowed our democracy from the United States of America. But I don't know if it only just exists in the books. In terms of practicality, I think the reverse happens to be the case. The young people of this country, the young generation, the one we refer to as the Gen Zs, they are not finding it funny anymore. Somebody has said this country is seated on the keg and it may explode any moment. In order for us to avert such situation, okay, what do we need to do as a people?
Is there any headway?
Well, Chris, in all honesty, looking at the situation presently, unless a miracle happens and the people who are managing the affairs of the country decide to start listening to the concerns of the people, to the cries of the people, to the concerns they are expressing, I don't think anything will change. You know, there's something that, well, successive governments in Nigeria have done, weaponizing poverty. You know, poverty has a way of silencing people, you know, putting people under control, so that even when they're supposed to react, you find them missing in action. In fact, it cuts across. It's not just young people, it cuts across all strata of society. It has come to a point where, well, you know, even when you see both civil society leaders, religious leaders, and are going cap in hand before the government because things are so terrible and all that. So they are conscious of this, and that is why they keep weaponizing poverty. That is why Nigerians seem to be so complacent, so inured to the suffering. I remember Nelson Mandela saying some time ago that, look, you know, when we're talking about the maladministration in Nigeria, about misgovernance, that Nigerians are not as angry as they're supposed to be. I remember the great Mandela saying that some time ago, when things had not even gotten as bad as it is now. So if Mandela were to be living and he sees what is happening now, I don't know what he's going to say about us. But that's someone that's so concerned about Nigeria, because Nigeria played a significant role during the apartheid regime in South Africa. So was concerned about this country and said, look, Nigerians should rise to the occasion and take the destiny in their own hands. And that's what we need to do. I don't think, honestly, I'm sorry to sound pessimistic, but I don't think unless a miracle happens. Because, to be honest, from the way things go now, it does seem as if the people managing the affairs of the country say, look, we can do whatever we want and get away with it and nothing is going to happen. It has come to that point. So yes, we can do this. And I mean, every institution of the state has been compromised. You can't go to court and you are sure of getting justice. I mean, it's as good as we don't have a legislature, because when those who are supposed to be representatives of the people will stand up, on the floors of the National Assembly and say, on the mandate of the man they are supposed to check, they stand. You know what that means? That arm of the government is supposed to provide some checks and balances, to the executive. But then it's just like we are on the same page. It doesn't matter. They seem to actually be representing the man they are supposed to be checking, or the arm of the government they are supposed to be checking. So this is the bad situation we find ourselves in. So I have a feeling that unless some drastic action is taken by Nigerians, or unless Nigerians rise and say enough is enough. We came very close to getting it right in 2020 during the NSAS protest. That really shook the very foundations of this nation. I mean, in recent years, I don't think anything like that has happened before, where, citizens of Nigeria had to rise to the occasion and say, look, we can't take this anymore.
Especially young people. Because they seem to be feeling the pinch more than other people, other strata of the society. So we came just very close to getting it right. And I think it is something similar to that will put a stop to what we are seeing presently. I don't think there's any kind of, gospel or dialogue or talks that will yield any positive results, because, well, unfortunately, those that are managing our affairs seem to have closed their ears. They don't even care what's going on. Somebody was saying it on live television the other day that Nigerians should be happy that at least they can feed with $1 in Nigeria. That you don't get that even in the United States. Why should we be talking about dollar in Nigeria? Is that our legal tender? Is that our currency? I was expecting someone representing the government to say, yes, with ₦1 you can buy something in Nigeria. So why would we be talking about a dollar that exchanges at 1,600 naira? Why should it be? If an American has $1,600 in his pocket, he or she will be very comfortable at 1,600. Yes, you won't finish $1,600 in one meal, no matter what you eat, and no matter at what hotel you take your food in the United States. So why should somebody be talking about dollars? About people that Nigerians, 63% of Nigerians are in multidimensional poverty. These are statistics from our own numbers. That's right.
From the National Bureau of Statistics. It's not coming from outside, though, for your information. These are our own numbers. So, and these numbers are staring us in the face, and somebody comes to say, well, it's not as bad as people are saying it. When your own statistics, when your own numbers are telling you something otherwise. So I think, it's like playing the ostrich, not just being honest with yourselves. We are, lying against even our conscience when we say things are the way they should be, when we know the situation that stares us in the face says otherwise.
Reverend Father Benjamin Achi, there should be a way out.
There has to be a way.
I don't want to take you through this other route. Where's the place of prayers? Let's see us through.
Chris, this question you asked is a temptation to me.
It's a
temptation to me because, given my position as a priest, but I have to be very honest with you.
Right.
Anyone who has known me and who has, read the articles right or have heard me speak, I've spoken about the issues of this country, about public issues for, over and over again and on many platforms. Will always tell you that I'm usually a very realistic person. I say things where I call the spade by its name.
I have a problem with people just sitting back and calling for prayers. Oh, let's pray for the country, everything will be fine. Steve Biko
I don't know whether this name rings a bell in your head.
Okay.
He was the head of civil rights movement, one of the leaders of the civil rights movement in South Africa. Once came to their rally and faced his black brothers and said to them, I want you black brothers and sisters today to know that God is not in the habit of coming down from heaven to do for men what he has given them the power to do for themselves. I read this quote a long time ago, but it's stuck. I've never forgotten that. God is never in the habit. You know, we are overly religious in this country. We try to say, oh, prayer will solve everything. No, 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 no. There is this cliche that heaven helps those who help themselves. Yes. The right prayer to say is, God, prosper the work of our hands. You know, we say that in prayer.
Yes.
That is the prayer that makes meaning to me. Not this kind of, and even some religious leaders, in all honesty, are part of the problem. Because you keep giving people the impression that God will just come from heaven to perform some kind of magic. We need to rise to the occasion. We need to do something. Yes, prayer has its place, no doubts about that. Nobody is saying prayer doesn't have its place. But you know, when I pray for this country, you know what I ask God? God, prompts people who are supposed to rise to change things in this country to rise to the occasion and take up their responsibilities. That is what I pray God to do. I'm not asking God to come back. You know, sometimes when we talk about prayer, I make a joke. I tell people, see, one day God will get very angry and come and slap all of us Nigerians one after the other for disturbing him when he has done for us everything he needed to do. So prayer has its place. Yes, nobody's contesting that. But the way people are called for prayers, you know, about the bad situation in Nigeria is laughable. It's laughable, honestly. Sometimes I don't even know whether to cry or to laugh when I hear that. Because it's not just, you know what to do. You refuse to do it and you're telling God to come do what exactly? So prayer has its place, yes. But it's not just, somebody wrote a book and said that the Nigerian problem is not a prayer point. I can't remember the exact term.
Okay.
A friend of mine there, you know, I was a reviewer, you know, when the day that book was presented, and all the things I said, and I found the caption of that book even instructive in itself. It's not just something we just keep, let's storm the heavens to do this, do that. No. It's not just that. Pray from today till a million years, and when we don't rise to the occasion and do the things we should do, nothing will change. Yes. There is no one country in this world that prayer changed things. No, there's no place. United States will say as their motto, in God we trust. Do you see what America does? They rise to the occasion. They have strong institutions. They keep building strong institutions. They keep putting up people that do things right. Yet in God they trust. That is their motto. You'll find it even on their dollars and all over the place. They will always make reference to God. But they didn't sit back and waited for God to come down from heaven to do for them what they've had the power to do for themselves. It was not God that came from heaven to change Singapore or other countries we talk about. You know, and when you wrote that book, From the Third World to the First World, telling their trajectory, their story of how they came from that nadir, that lowest ebb where they are to what they have become today. That's the leader who had a vision, who had a focus, who kept his eye on the ball and turned things around for his country.
This is what people do. These are, a good number of them believe in God, but you know also of other countries that are so irreligious that that has relegated religion to the background, but see, they're progressing. But I'm not saying it's the right thing to do.
It is human beings that God has given knowledge, that God has given mental and intellectual strength that will have to rise to the occasion to turn things around.
And those human beings, we have them in this country.
Yes, we have them. Nigeria is blessed when it comes to human resources. Some of the finest minds you will get across the world in all walks of life are Nigerians. Yes, you will not walk into any hospital anywhere in the United Arab Emirates, in the UK, in the United States today, and you don't see a Nigerian. And that's how it is in other spheres of life. Nigerians are superstars. We have a lot of very well, endowed people in this country. We have people that can turn things around. The Ngozo Konji-Iwealas, the Akinwumi Adesinus of this world, are they not Nigerians? And these are guys holding their own, all these places, and they are global citizens with global credentials. These are Nigerians, you know. So if we get this right, it's very easy. It's not difficult. We have people that can turn things around. I'm very convinced of that, and anybody who knows this country knows that we have people. But what do we get? The worst of us happens to be the people holding the reins of power. It's a tragedy, Chris.
Well, Reverend Father Benjamin Achi certainly want to wrap it up here, but it's not going to be the end. It's going to be work in progress.
Yeah.
We want to appreciate you for coming to the show today, but then we hope that when we call on you next time, you are going to oblige our request.
Well, thank you. Sure. Well, we keep talking if that is the least we can do.
All right.
Yes.
He has just told us we need to be intentional. Both the leadership and the followership need to be intentional. We need to be practical. So help us, God. Until we come your way again, I remain Chris and Ibogu saying bye for now.